There's no I in sacred, but there is an E, or an introduction to video basics for lay leaders and clergy. And here we are today in collaboration with eFormation at Virginia Theological Seminary. A little bit about me. So human, know about me. I'll walk us through me. I recently finished a master's degree at Yale, where I was also with the Institute of Sacred Music. Prior to that, I have a Master of Music from Western Illinois University. I'm in Philadelphia, where I'm a candidate for ordination there. And then the technical expertise that I bring you is with educating on technology, audio and video production, theater, and liturgy on the internet. I've done production for shows in live theater and in musical theater for a couple different groups around the country, say Habla Español. And more recently, I've been doing some work on trauma-informed pastoral. The goal of today is to give everyone an overview of some of the basics that will help you be able to shoot video well, to be able to edit video well, and then be able to know some of the basics in terms of equipment and hardware, what this thing is right here that you're sitting in front of with me, why that's useful, and then to answer some questions also generally about ministry through video and how video changes the way that people experience liturgy.
You're muted, Sarah.
I feel like I should ask you questions about your rig in order to like fill time. So you are rocking some headphones. Meryl is rocking headphones. Shamika and I are not rocking headphones.
I do have.
Oh, you do have them. Whoops. Okay.
It's just my hair.
I'm the bad apple in that scenario. Meryl, do you have an external mic, or are you using your headphones mic?
I'm using the headphones mic, and sometimes I use the mic that's on the camera.
Okay. Well. And then Shamika, you're just using your headphone.
Okay. And I want to mention that in the recorded piece that I did earlier, I feel like the sound quality was probably a good deal higher. I was using, see if I can find it. Okay. I recorded the audio separately on this Tascam audio recorder, and then synced it all up in the.
That's some good recording going on.
So there we are, lovely. So this thought, the medium is the message. I want to move in. If we can move to slide 5, that would be great. So Marshall Mcluhan is someone that we talk about as being a media ecologist. If you ever think about or have thought about, like, how does television work? How does video production, the movies we see, like, how does that work? Radio, any sort of technological advancement of where you can hear something without a person being right in front of you, or you can read something. Well, what this guy said was that it's not just what's being said, but essentially how you're saying it. And when it comes to technology, the different sorts of mediums that we use impact the way that our people that we serve in ministry, who attend our liturgies, they impact the way that they receive it. More recently, I'll say, because a lot of our lay folks are participating in liturgy by being at home, maybe watching the liturgy on their phones or on their computer. There's some backing of philosophy to say that a lot of the ways that they might be experiencing liturgy right now, our worship services, bear some resemblance to the ways that they watch other things on their phones or TV. So something to keep in mind. One of my favorite things is Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong, I even wrote it into the slides. One more, slide 6, if we can go back even one more. What can go wrong will go wrong. Murphy's Law plus the experience of every technical director everywhere. I see Meryl shaking his head, yes. One of my favorite memories in technical direction was when I was an intern with the presiding bishop's office, and we were on site for one of the revival events, And he's doing his thing, presiding Bishop Kerr is doing his thing, like having great conversations and bringing the spirit to the moment. But as we're trying to film this, he's invited everyone to stand in prayer. And so I have zero shot of what's actually going on because there are all of these backs in front of me. So one of the things I think that's really important to being successful with video is being ready to make changes, being ready to adapt, being ready to say, okay, this isn't working. Let's try something else. Let's go on to the last slide of quote, if we can, slide number 7. God will always be praised, but the devil is in the details. This one is mine. I want everybody to remember that the work that you do, I very deeply believe that God sees that, and God sees the intention behind that. What makes our lives easier is to think about these details, so that as you go about the next week, we can communicate our intentions clearly among the people that we're serving, so that maybe, for example, you don't have a lot of lag time between trying to get your slides and your audio to work. So we appreciate your patience. Thank you. Let's move on to the next slide, learning objectives. So here we are. Next slide, please. So by the end of this segment, we'll have covered a few basic topics of video and audio production and editing. One, how to set up your video. I'm assuming for all of the content here that you're shooting video on your smartphone. Most of us in all of the congregational settings that we work with have someone who has access to a smartphone. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to light that. We're going to talk a little bit how to optimize that video based on how it will be produced. And we'll talk about where to put the camera when you're shooting video. This goes for both when you're shooting inside a building and when you're shooting outside a building. We're going to be talking a lot about lighting here. Then we're going to talk about some best practices for filming with the pacing of your videos, about diction and how that's important. We'll talk a little bit about how to make your life easier with editing when you have to edit a video together. And then we'll talk some about the camera techniques, about how to make your video look clean and easy. From there, we'll move to editing. We'll talk a little bit about trimming your video. We'll talk a little bit about how to accomplish transitions between different segments of video. And then finally, we'll talk about how to transfer video. A couple of things that you need to know about transferring video. The cloud is your friend, and what resolution you choose makes a big difference. So the size of video, the quality of the video that you show, some pros and cons of that. Staying on this slide here, slide number 11, we'll talk a lot about tech. Some of the things that go into making tech work successfly. And I'm actually going to give you a little virtual tour of my rig here that I use for broadcasting and for video myself. So I've listed some of the little tools that I use, some of the little things that we have that I have used in the course that might make the process simpler and easier. And then finally, the different platforms you might have access to use. There are 3 different types of platforms that you want to think about. 1, what platform you're going to edit your video on. 2, what platform you're going to edit your audio on. And then 3, what platform you're going to stream your content on. Now, there's already been a little conversation about content streaming, so we won't spend as much time here. But it is important to be reminded that you have options and they all have their pros and cons. Next slide, please. Content. Because it's the internet, please like, click the notification bell, and subscribe. Next. So when we talk about setting up your video, the nice thing about digital video and digital audio in the digital world is that you can both measure 10 times and you can cut 10 times. By that, what I mean, you can take however much time that you want to set up well. And then if it doesn't work out, if it doesn't look right, you can just shoot it again. It used to be when I first started doing audio and video, we were still spooling out the videotape, and then you would physically use scissors to cut it and then to match it back up. And you'd have this glue that you'd have to use to make sure that it lines up right. So you only got one shot at editing it well. Here, you have lots of different shots at editing it well. Lighting is is the first thing that we need to talk about that is most important in terms of getting started well. When you light something, we talked a little bit about glare in the zoom setting, in the zoom section. Whether or not you light something from the front or the back is really important to how your video is going to turn out. I'm going to demonstrate here on camera because I don't want to have to cause switches to the system too terribly often. But I have here in front of me a lamp. When I light myself from the front like this, this light that's sitting for me on the front makes it so that my face is visible to the camera. I've got a little bit of a ring here because you can see the light and it's really close to my face, but you can see me. Yes, thank you, Meryl. It's a Fortnite chair. I love the color purple. Both the hue, the pigment, and also the book. But you can see my face. The light is pointing at my face, and you can see me. This sort of lighting helps you to see, helps the camera find my face, so that I show up. And everyone else, all of your other presenters are really well lit today too. On the other hand, if there's a light behind me and that light is brightly facing into the camera, you can't see me. You can't see me even a little bit. I can pull it back a little bit further. I can pull it back even a little further still. But even now, that light is still taking the focus and setting the tone of how the rest of the shot is going to be lit. I'll say that again. Front lighting will help me be seen. Backlighting takes the focus away from the camera. The same thing is true of the sun when you're outside. I know that makes looking. You're probably asking me now, Paul, does that mean that I have to look into the sun in order to shoot a good video? No, of course not. But it is to say, if you shoot a shot where the sun is right behind you and it hits the lens, I won't be able to see whoever is on the camera as well as if I had just maybe rotated about like 90 degrees and the sun was at my side. Basic start with lighting. Video orientation. This has to do a little bit essentially with landscape versus portrait lighting, portrait orientation, how you hold your phone. So when I hold my phone like this, when I hold my phone in a sort of rectangle like this is an orientation that's called landscape. When I film something in landscape mode, I get a nice, really, really wide image, kind of like what you would see if you were watching a movie, like if you were watching a clip on the internet. I'm going to film you all right now for 2 seconds and then replay it back to you. Everybody's smiling. You can see my screen, and then you can look and see what that looks like right now. Yeah. I can see it fits the camera, it fits the dimensions of my phone very nicely. I can see really big, and I can see a decent amount of detail. I will send, I will make a folder with all of these different sample videos that will go out during some of the individual coaching sessions so that you can see them as well. So you'll have access to that. On the other hand, if I hold my phone this way, this is what's called portrait mode. So if I film something in this direction, I get a very different angle, and I get a very different orientation. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. I don't even get to see the entirety of the screen that I'm looking at. I see just a very small part of it. The value of portrait versus landscape orientation has to do with what sort of device and what sort of platform that people are going to see your content. If your intention is to put your content on something like Instagram, then portrait mode is your best friend, because Instagram is designed as a platform for devices in portrait mode. But for virtually any other platform that you might use to broadcast your content, landscape is ideal for what people will see. You can see more detail. A lot of times the resolution will be better depending on how it's been shot. Andrea has added a great comment as well. The black bars on the side, Andrea's talking about if you shoot, when you see even if I were to use my phone to log into this Zoom, instead of seeing my view filling up the box, you would see 2 black bars and probably about this much of me. There, Shamika has a great example with the picture, and Sarah does as well. We'll talk a little bit about camera positioning, about how to set up your video. So with camera positioning, we want to talk about something with the level of height where the camera is positioned when you shoot your video. If I shoot a video looking down, we talked a little bit about this in terms of how you position your camera for Zoom. If I shoot a video I'm looking just slightly up at it, then I can see my face. I can see the rest of that part of my shoulders, and I get a nice clean look at the video with no pictures of my nostrils. Whereas, as I had demonstrated before when we were doing this sort of Kilroy is here type thing, if I shoot a video where I'm looking up in order to be able to see the screen, you see maybe that experience of what it looks like trying to find the button to end the Zoom webinar, which I am not going to click by accident because I've totally not done that before. Different effects. My experience has been is that either the straight on angle where I'm sitting with you right now, or the just sort of slightly tilted up angles are better. An easy way to fix this, if you are sitting somewhere where you have access to an adjustable chair, now I'm looking up even just a little bit more, and that adjustment is fairly simple. My other friend, being a 6 foot tall person, that helps me resolve this issue, a hymnal is great for an instant height change, to be able to help you with that. Or you might find there are certain sorts of lap desk type folding things that can help just adjust and raise the height of your device if you're sitting at a computer reasonably easily, as many people are when they film for Zoom liturgy. If you are outside and you are filming, another great friend is a tripod. This tripod is specially fitted that it has a bracket that will actually attach your phone like this, and then I can directly change the level of height based on however many clamps that it has on the side. You can see them right there to be able to extend the length. Some tripods also come with the ability to be selfie sticks if you need to be able to shoot a video and you don't have someone to hold the phone for you. And so then you can use that to be able to hold to be able to hold the phone out from you so people can still see you. Some tripods like this one, they come with Bluetooth remotes that look just something real small like this. They're compatible with any sort of phone, any sort of smartphone. But when you click it, it takes a picture. So if I go to my camera, and you can see it has my green screen back here. I can click it, and hopefully you see my camera taking a picture. So maybe we'll get a blink here. Yep, there's the blink that shows me that I just took a picture. There we go. Stability. We talked a little bit about glare, about how to position to protect yourself from the sun. Stability is key. One of the things that can make the biggest immediate change of improvement of quality to your content. I'll demonstrate. Here's my phone. I'm gonna hold it and shoot the webinar here. I'm gonna hold and do the same thing, shooting a video, but I'm gonna use the camera tripod that I just showed you. Always make sure that you clip in the little clips here that lock the tripod out. And now here we go. Let's take a look at the difference that makes with the camera stability. Here's the first video that I showed you. You can see in this video, it's a little bit shaky, not just from my hands actually shaking, but you can actually see the movement of my computer screen in the video. Now, if I swipe right and show you the next video, if I do this correctly, here's what that video looks like. Take it down under my screen. Here's what that video looks like on the tripod. There's virtually no movement in the video at all. I realize that there's a lot of movement while I'm just holding my phone up to be able to show you the video. That's partially demonstrates the same point. That tripod makes some of the biggest difference in terms of taking attention away from the actual artifices of filming and production, and makes the intention on what the content actually is. All of the different tips that we're giving you to be able to make some of these changes have to do with eliminating how much of the work that you're doing is noticed by the people who are reviewing your content. One of the things that I was first told when I started doing video and audio production is that in the shows with the best video and audio producers, nobody even knows that they're there. In the shows with the best video and audio producers, nobody even knows that they're there. Let's move on to filming well. That's the next slide. It says, it's walking, chewing gum, and saving the world at the same time. One of the things that's really important here is that you as a filming person, you as a videographer, you have the ability to be a coach, a mentor to whoever it is you're doing ministry with. That could be another lay leader, a clergy person. You have the ability to make their lives easier by giving them a little bit of coaching early on in order to keep them from having to have a lot of headaches later about, oh, well, I couldn't understand, because it might not even be just the problems with like whatever internet issues like I'm having today. It might be the content, it might be the camera, it might be the microphone, it might be the crosswind. You have the ability to impact the process in a way that will both make your life easier as a video producer and also be very, very pastoral in the way that you approach it. And so I encourage you to think of the work of audio and video design as an art of pastoral care, of caring for carers. When you take the time to explain the reasons that we do these things and the reasons that we care so much about our pastoral, about being pastoral and about the technicalities of video, when you explain that that's in support of making people have a better chance at an experience of a spiritual encounter on the internet, mediated through a video that you posted on YouTube, a live stream, that's ministry. That's your ministry to whoever is serving in your liturgy, and that's ministry also to the people that will see that liturgy on the second level. One of the first things that I tell people, and you've heard me using it throughout the video already, is that pacing and diction are really important. Pacing and diction are really important. Slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race. If I were to talk in my normal speaking voice, the voice that I use, say, when I'm out on the street or when I'm having a conversation with friends or family, it might sound something a little bit more like this. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial and deliver us from evil, for the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours now and forever. Amen. When I'm working on a recording, because I can't necessarily judge how quickly that recording is going, there are tons of other different factors that impact the quality that goes from my lips to someone else's ears. I speak much more slowly. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. More vowels, more consonants, a slower pace in between each word so that the microphone can pick it up. This one right here, and we'll get to the equipment in a moment. The next part, we talked a little bit about the resting zoom face that you have while you might not be speaking. We talked a little bit about that. When you film something, you as an editor, in order to be able to edit content, will need space before the person finishes what they say and space after the person finishes what they say in order to be able to cut around the things that they're saying. For example, if I'm going to say the words of institution, and that's going to be a component that someday, perhaps if ever we do some thinking about the Eucharist in times of a pandemic and the theology behind that. I might leave a little bit of space. So instead of going from a space of neutral resting face, where I said here, on the night in which he was betrayed unto suffering and death, our Lord Jesus took bread and gave thanks, and when he had broke it, he gave it to them and said, I might actually give myself a little bit more time. I'm going to assume the body position that I would be in when I'm going to be saying those things. I might give myself a second or two or three, and then I'll start. On the night in which he was to be betrayed over to suffering and death, our Lord Jesus took bread, broke it, gave thanks, and gave it to his friends and said, and I leave the same amount of space afterwards as well, so that when I'm cutting in the editing bay, I have room to be able to clip that up, as opposed to if I just go from, this is my body, take, eat in remembrance of me. My vocal cords are still making the sound as my body returns to inert, to resting. And so if I don't want to clip the sound, I have to capture that video like that. Or I have to cut out the video so that only the sound is there. Editing space, you need more than you think. We talked a little bit about camera techniques, about tripods. We talked a little bit about some of those pieces. I see that we're running a little bit short of time, so I'm going to jump over the actual process of editing at the moment and go to tech. There is not a slide for tech. Some of the things that are very helpful are in terms of lighting yourself, especially if you are inside. We talked about how lighting from the front is really important. I actually use a very simple tool. I use a paper lantern that you can buy at IKEA. The reason for something like this is that when I turn it on, that lantern, the tissue paper, softens the light that gets distributed through it, enough to where it gives a warm glow to my face, to where I'm well lit, but I'm not lit so strongly that there's a big glare. I actually have 4 lanterns spread out across my desk right now. There are 2 that are above the desk here. So there, I think you can see a little bit. I've got a central large computer screen here in the middle. I've got a laptop over here in the corner. There's definitely some iced coffee and a Wawa hoagie and coffee over there because priorities. But you can also see these 4 big spots of light, 2 across the top, 2 along the sides. You see a digital keyboard over here, some Post-it notes, the lamp that I was using, and then I've got it positioned around a bunch of different windows. That's so that those windows can give me natural light in front of me in order to be able to light me naturally when it's sunny. Those are the chandelier ones that you can buy in like a large pack that have like the really small base that aren't terribly bright, because I don't need a lot of light. I just need it distributed in the right places to be able to light me well. There's a question in the chat from Louis Caruso who asked, will I talk about using a green screen? Yes, I absolutely will, and I'll demonstrate exactly what that's like. As Sarah had shared, you have the ability with fun things to be able to use a virtual background. The virtual background that I have right up now is Holy Apostles in Hilo, Hawaii, where I was there for a conference with the East Asian Ministries consultation. So my green screen is actually 9 pieces of cardboard, of poster board purchased from Target. You can see over here, there's a little bit of a different color. That's actually a tablecloth. That's a reasonably close green hue that I bought on the internet. I hung that up from my ceiling, anchored with safety pins. And then you can see there's a little bit of a break in the fabric here. I just tacked up another one. And then all of these pieces of poster board are again tacked with safety pins to that hanging fabric, and then secured to each other, the poster board secured to each other via duct tape. The way to enable this, there's a button in Zoom that says, I have a green screen, and you can click that. And that will make it a lot easier for you to be able to see clear images displayed on behind you in the virtual background. Now, depending on what sort of live streaming software you're using, there are ways of doing the same thing with video that is not processed through Zoom, where you can insert an image later. I'll talk a little bit about how to do that with the different platforms that we'll get to in a minute. So yes, that's a green screen, Lewis. It can be very, very simple. The reason that I have this hanging in a part of my room is because in the house that I live in, the only personalizable space that I have is my own bedroom. So I have like the room divided by this screen, and then like my bed, my closet, like my sleepy time space, my comfy chair, and my pajamas are all back there. Blue also works really well. Blue poster board, StreamYard, absolutely, yep. StreamYard is also really good with this. There are a couple others. Cam Live is also useful in terms of editing the green and blue screen in. iMovie does it as well. If you have a Mac, you have a premium editing software platform that already comes with the technology that you already own. Shot stabilization, we talked about. Tripods. One of the things, if you don't have access to a tripod, one of the tricks that will help to steady a little bit, if you have to take a picture or a short video, take it while you're breathing out. Breathe in, and then on the breathe out, take that short video. Because as you're breathing out, the lungs in your chest, are not inflating. And so because they're not inflating, the body has fewer physical movements to change how the arms are moving. Many of us, our shoulders move when we breathe. They might move up, they might move down as you breathe in. So that has an impact on stability. The other trick that we have that you can use, that we use for a lot of the mobile videos with the presiding bishop, is what's called a gimbal. What these do is they're a little stick similar to a selfie stick that your camera goes on top of, and they actually let you, they actually correct for some of the movement in your hand. So you can see my hand moving a little bit here with my camera just because my hand is a little less steady. A gimbal is a device that allows for automatic correction based on the allows for correction based on the accelerometer, the movement sensor in your phone. I've got a question. I've got a couple of questions about video equipment here from Andrea Ford. I don't want to be stuck recording with my iPhone every Sunday. The reason that I talk a lot about iPhones is because a lot of the structure of using of the work that you have to do in terms of production is already built into it. The iPhone is a platform that can automatically stream your video straight to Facebook Live or straight back to your computer, has some capacity to record the audio as well without having to set up a separate microphone, which we can talk about as well. Mevo is is a specific camera platform that is paired with its own video editing and streaming software. That again, by virtue of ease, we've used for some of the services that have been live streamed by the presiding bishop. The resources, those resources in terms of ease are what we're talking about, because we don't want you to have to go into lots of very technical details, rather than necessarily when there are products that can help you accomplish a lot of these components. Like, we can absolutely talk through like digital cameras, pros and cons, aperture, and audio pickup. But the amount of learning that it's taken me to feel like I have a reasonable level of mastery over what all the different options are has been built over a lifetime of professional work in this field. And of course, the technology continues to change. And for most of the parishes that I've worked with, and most of the theater companies that I've worked with, having the budget to invest in all of the different things that it takes, maybe something like an iPhone or this particular microphone that I'm using right now, in order to give you a quality of sound that picks up a lot of the timbre of my voice while filtering out a lot of the background noise. We're talking about a difference of maybe an iPhone like down payment plus a payment plan that you'd already have anyway, versus potentially a couple $1,000s worth of equipment. Same thing here with this microphone, the sort of processing that it does. This microphone is called the Yeti Blue microphone. It's particularly optimized for spoken word podcasting. I'll put it here in the chat. Yep, Meryl's got one too. This particular model is about 110, 120, 130. It comes with a connection that goes directly into your computer via USB-A, so you don't even have to buy extra cords to be able to use it. It has a little jack on the bottom so that you can plug your headphones directly into the microphone, and you can hear your sound as you're going, so you don't have to wonder, is it coming through clearly? If you want to, the more that you invest, the more that you really want to invest time and energy, there are plenty of things. But an iPhone, this particular microphone, an iPad, and the Mevo system are all good places to start. I should say, in my experience of things that I've used, are good places to start with what's currently available on the market. That's a great question, Andrea. Thank you. Jennifer asked about camera angles. We talked a little bit about having the camera above eye level. Where I'm at right now, the camera is just barely above my eye level. My eye level is here. I'm looking up just about that much to be able to see. What that does, it gives a clear picture of my face, as opposed to if I'm standing a little bit higher and I'm pinching down, I have to look and you can't see my face. Or again, if I am sitting much lower and I have to look up, you see the roof of my mouth and you see my nostrils. This is a thing that is reasonably like a visual sort of like making the experience more pleasant for your attendees, but it is important because what they see with video, because since we are on a video platform, regardless of whether it's live stream or whether it's a pre-recorded video, what they see informs on the video, and the way that is processed through the way that they watch television and the way that they watch movies. I'm going to take a look back through the questions. Face angles touched on a little bit.
There's a couple questions from the Q&A. So Francis asks, I do not have access to any Apple equipment, and you're in a small church with a tiny budget. A lot of folks don't feel like it's worth it. How can we do it on the cheap? Or how can this be done on a PC sort of perspective?
That's a really good question. A camera, assuming that you have any sort of camera phone at all, any sort of camera phone that will broadcast well, 90% of the things that we've discussed are accomplishable from your camera phone. Your camera phone will let you will let you record video. Your camera phone will let, there are similar products that you can edit video for free across platforms. Like if anyone associated with your parish has a Windows computer, it's in the slide deck that for video editing, there's a program called Lightworks, which is pretty effective, and it's also free across platforms. It works on both Windows and Mac. With audio editing, the video program that I like that is free and cross-platform is called Audacity. Yep, Sarah's got it right there. You do not have to sign up for it, and 90% of the features that are there are usable for free. I made the choice not to go through the specifics of like how to edit, like how to actually like do like the physical editing of the video in this webinar workshop, because that would involve me having to go and dig into one very specific platform that I use, being GarageBand and iMovie. And because like we want this video to be useful across as many different users as possible, it doesn't really seem fair to me to ask a bunch of folks to participate in a walkthrough of that platform when it's not applicable to them. So that's that decision there.
Yeah. Pastor Harlan asks about suggestions for improving uploading speeds. They record their services while live streaming, posted to their Facebook page and website by uploading a Sony camcorder recording, breaks into two pieces when downloaded to the computer, and they use OpenShot to splice it back together. The biggest demand for them is that uploading to their YouTube channel. They only have 3 MBS upload speeds, so it normally takes 2 to 3 hours to get it uploaded. Any suggestions?
That's tricky. So I'm assuming then my audio cut out a little bit. Is the intention to live stream or to be able to live stream the service as it goes?
No, they're just uploading it to YouTube afterward.
I understand. Okay, so there are a couple of different sort of like middle steps that are useful. I really like using Google Drive or Dropbox in order to get your content from your computer or from your phone just onto the internet. My experience with YouTube is that YouTube, if you're uploading directly from like your computer, if you're uploading from the hardware directly into the internet, you have to upload the processing. You have the time associated with uploading the video from your hardware into the cloud to YouTube, and then YouTube has to process it, and then YouTube sends it out. If you upload to the cloud first through a different software, that could potentially reduce your upload time. My experience of YouTube as well, regardless of like the loading of the time of whatever your upload speed is that YouTube is really frustratingly slow. I've had with no observable difference in terms of my upload speeds, I've had uploads of a 5-minute movie take anywhere between 15 minutes and 45 minutes. And so I'm reasonably certain that anything that can be done to reduce the strain on YouTube having to process more data is a good thing. And I think because YouTube and Google are both because YouTube and Google Drive are both Google earned services, that should reduce a step. I'm not 100% certain. Like I haven't been able to ask. Merrill looks like he has.
Yeah, Merrill might have an option, and then I have just another easy little thing to do. Merrill.
One of the things, I'm sorry, I need to see the name here, Pastor Harlan, that may be happening also is your video file may be of a higher quality than you need it to be. So one thing that can completely change your upload speed is if you just said, okay, right now it's in 4K or 2K or it's in 1080p or something like that. Get it to 720. That's about as high as quality you're going to get from YouTube anyway. And I'm not sure with OpenShot, if that's an option, but when you export it, try to export it as a 720p, it should be a lot smaller. And one other thing I would do that is easy to overlook is most of the time for these services, it does not matter if your audio is in stereo. Output your audio in mono. It makes a huge difference in the size. You'd be surprised how much of a difference it can make. So those two things might really help you out.
That was what I was going to say too. Like it makes a world of difference, the size of the file that you're uploading. And it could be that you can, it might be that because you're also streaming on to Facebook, you can download that Facebook streaming video. And so then that way, like you don't have to work with a giant file directly from the camera. And so then that way, like it's already sort of like on the internet-ish, cloud-ish. And so then that way that's another option around it too. Because it was apparently you're dealing with a large file from your camcorder. So.
Yeah.
There were a couple of questions that came early on today that you missed, Paul, that were about PTZ, pan, tilt, zoom cameras, and also different types of hardware and stuff like that. So I think you'll have a bunch of folks, or at least a couple of us on the hardware side, I should say, Paul and I both, who will be happy to answer a lot of those questions. And I just thought that was fantastic, Paul. Thanks, man.
My pleasure. The one thing that I can say about hardware is that you do get what you pay for, has been my experience. If you have, my experience has been buying something cheap off of Amazon is almost nearly always going to break, as opposed to saving a little extra money for what Merrill held up, an audio processor. Microphone recommendations for mics that are more portable than a Yeti. Yes, there are absolutely lavalier mics that you can clip on to your lavalier that will plug into your that can plug into your phone. Here's another one. I really love Zoom. Not the web, not the actual like web chatting thing, but the device Zoom. Merrill held up an audio recorder that's great. Many companies are actually making little add-ons that actually just plug into your phone. So Zoom has a little add-on that has an actual lightning connector. I believe they have one that exists in USB-C as well. USB-C, thank you. They have one that exists in USB-C as well, so it can plug into an Android phone. But when I clip this onto my phone, this is about $100. It gives me a similar audio effect as if I were using something like a Yeti mic, because the science of it is that it directs how, what audio it's picking up. It doesn't just pick up audio from like all around like your phone microphone is designed to do. It's designed to pick up a lot of things so that you can be heard, and so it picks up a lot of wind. These are designed to help you minimize that. But this plugin is called the Zoom IQ7, and it retails for about $100. The Zoom IQ7.
And that's what
they release.
Is that with a Z Zoom, or is that with an X? I can't remember.
With a Z. Yeah.
With a Z,
I'll put it up here. They release a new one every couple of years. Usually the hardware updates are pretty good. So that's a small one to add. There are other microphones like this that are reasonably well portable, although the more you go towards portability, the more that you sacrifice quality. Has been my experience, that it's a spectrum of portability and quality. My experience of Blue Yeti is that with that mic stand, I can, because it doesn't require its own external power source, assuming that I have something like a laptop or an iPad, I can take it with me and do recording directly from that. I recorded like a meditation, like nature sounds and stuff. So
yeah, but then what I found is that you have to be like very aware of the space that you're in too. because a big open giant room will still sound like a big old giant room, even though you have a nice microphone, as opposed to like a more like enclosed, softer space. So I learned my lesson.
Absolutely.
Do you mind if I have one more comment? When Paul mentioned, you know, what you pay for, talking about hardware, I want to say that when it comes to software, you're going to find that to be true as well. I mean, I love OBS, the open broadcasting software that makes it possible to do streaming from cameras like these PTZ cameras and so forth. Yeah, there's OBS project. But there's a great piece of content, a great piece of software that's for Windows only called Vmix. And Vmix is pretty fantastic. And what happens with Vmix is you get a lot of the things you kind of have to jump through hoops, and you have to be able to get under the hood and get your knuckles dirty a little bit. And OBS is just kind of built into Vmix. And it's sort of the same thing as pay a little bit and you actually get a lot back. So anyway, when we go deeper on our Q&As next week and the week after, you know, we can talk about those sorts of things, and it might help out not only the question of we need it on a super tight budget, but also the question of we've got a budget, what's the best way for us to spend this?
Mm-hmm. Spending money well is also very important.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul. I'm excited to continue to learn from you.
Yes.